Can you hear me? Okay.
Okay, so welcome everyone to our Broward County Public Schools Candidate Forum for District 5, which is where the Urban League of Broward County is situated. My name is Emanuela Ginatian, and I serve as the Advocacy Coordinator for the Urban League of Broward County. And I am joined with Ms. Monica Elliott from the League of Women Voters here today. And this year has been a very important year. We've had very important conversations as it relates to education around the taxes in Broward County, statewide changes to the education curriculum, such as critical race theory, how teachers are treated in schools and paid in schools, and gun violence in schools, and much more when it comes to the education, well-being, and future of students here in Broward County. So, as it turns out, most residents in Broward County are actually registered to vote. So one of the things that was important for both the Urban League of Broward County and the League of Women Voters is to have not just registered voters, but engaged voters. And engagement means knowing who your candidates are and what their platforms are and what contributions they could make if elected. So tonight is the opportunity for all of the candidates for the School Board District 5 to share their platform. So we invited all of the candidates for District 5 to join us tonight. All of the candidates confirmed. However, tonight we see that Ms. Gloria Lewis is not currently on the call, but she did accept the invitation. So we're hoping that she may log in later tonight. All of the candidates, none of the candidates received the questions that they will be asked. However, all of the candidates received the order in which they will be asked the questions. So we are going to get started, but I would like to share some of the rules of tonight's forum. So Monica Elliott will be our timekeeper, and she's very good at her job. And she is on screen on the bottom of the screen. And when you are cutting close to time, she will actually tell you by raising the sign. So the first one is 10 seconds. And when it's time to stop, she has another one for you to stop. She is also very, very good with the mute button. So if you don't, she will help you. So we will get started. So what we want to do is provide each candidate with 1 minute to give introductions, and then we will go into the round of questions. So we will get started now. Give me 1 second. All right, so we will start with the self-introductions, and we will start with candidate Burgess.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Urban Lead and Lead of Women Voters, for providing this platform. My name is Antonio Burgess, and I'm running as a candidate for School Board Seat District 5. My commitment to District 5 actually started when I was just a school-aged child, attending all of District 5 schools. After graduating from Dillard High School and obtaining my bachelor's degree from FAMU, I taught at every single level in District 5, elementary, middle, and high. Currently, I lead district-wide mentoring initiatives in the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence Project, which is a mentoring program for boys. It is at this level where I gained an insight of how the inner workings of the district.
I think he froze.
I'm running because when I go into schools across the district and look into because our parents are tired. Hello? Hello?
You froze for just a moment.
Yes.
Uh-oh. Am I still frozen?
No, you're not. But go ahead and continue. We'll add 15 seconds to it, or 10 seconds. Let's add 10 seconds.
Okay. I'm running because when I go into the schools across this district and look into the eyes of boys and girls, I see hope in their eyes. I'm running because our teachers and staff are tired and overworked and underpaid, yet they show up each and every day. I'm running because our parents are tired of their voices being left and unheard. As your next School Board District 5 member, My top priorities are increasing teacher and staff pay, increasing student achievement, expanding support services for our students and families and staff, improving community engagement and partnerships, improving safety and security, and lastly, improving equity and access for all of our students and schools. I'm a proven leader, mentor, and a community advocate for community and schools. I'm a product and educator of District 5, and I'm ready to move District 5 forward.
Thank you so much. Next, we have candidate Carter Lynch.
Thank you, League of Women Voters and Urban League. I'm running because the school board has lost its luster. It has not been performing up to the level for this particular, for District 5 and or any of the schools in Broward County as far as I'm concerned. But I'm a 35-year corporate veteran. I'm an education professional. I've been an assistant principal. I'm very passionate about this, and I have lived and worked in District 5 for the last 22 years. I am currently the senior advisor to the mentorship program at Parkway Middle School. I reinstituted the PTSA for Boyd Anderson. I reorganized the PTSA for Sunland Park Elementary. I have been working in this community. I have been also, I'm the education facilities chair for Broward County. I'm also on the committee of the Greater Fort Lauderdale Executive Committee. And I'm also yellow and green belt Lean Six Sigma and a board governance trainer. And if you want the truth, you vote for Ruth.
Thank you so much. The next candidate will be candidate Coach.
He's not here.
Oh, I missed that. And candidate Holness.
Yes, can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes. we can.
Yes.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, League of Women Voters and Urban League for having us. I am Dr. Jeff Holness. I have been a longtime educator in Broward County for over 25 years. I do own a learning center in Coral Springs, and I've seen so many students come into my learning center from Broward County schools with significant learning gaps created as a result of the pandemic when they were online. As a result, I believe that we need to do something about it, and I believe I have the experience and knowledge and background to be able to make a difference in that regards. I completed a Doctor of Education degree at Nova Southeastern University. I also graduated from high school here in Broward, Dillard High School, and I am a father. I have 2 sons in Broward County Public Schools. I believe the experience that I'm bringing to the board as a business owner, as a longtime teacher in Broward County Schools, will be substantive in order to address some of the issues that we have. I also intend to address issues pertaining to the mental health of our students, as well as our continued efforts for safety and security of our schools. So I am happy to be here, and I will answer your questions today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have candidate Lynch Walsh.
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Dr. Natalie Lynch Walsh. I am the current chair of the district's facilities task force, and I also sit on the district's audit committee. I've been on the task force for the past 10 years, and the audit committee, I think this is my 7th or 8th year. When you serve on a district level committee, like the facilities task force and the audit committee, you get a more global perspective of what is going on in the district in terms of facilities and also the board's fiscal responsibility or the lack thereof. My background, I was born and raised in the US Virgin Islands. I've lived in Broward County for about 25, 26 years. Most of that has been spent in Plantation. Both of my kids go to public schools. I have an undergraduate degree in accounting, an MBA, and a PhD in global leadership. I got into this race because of my concern with the district not adhering to the CCC settlement agreement, which has to do with equity for students on a number of different fronts, including facilities, academic achievement, and disciplinary practices. And I also ran in 2016, and I see that a lot of the same I don't see our timekeeper, but a lot of the same concerns that I have in 2016 are still here. So we need to increase academic achievement and empower teachers. Also focus on safety, security, and mental health, and respect for the public. That's something that's been lacking and is part of the improvements that the board needs to make in terms of governance. Thank
You're
you.
not, thank you.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I understand. But while our next candidate goes, I think you may need to adjust your screen so that you can see more viewers and you can see our moderator on the bottom.
Okay.
So yes. So then the final candidate to give an introduction will be candidate Witherspoon.
Hello, hello. How you doing, everybody? First of all, I want to thank everyone for the Urban League and, of course, the voters for 411 for allowing us this opportunity to come on and to express to the voters about ourselves. My name is Jimmy Witherspoon. I grew up in District 5. I am definitely a product of District 5, where I've been for the past 41 years. Presently, I'm raising my family in District 5, my wife, and of course, I'm a pastor here in District 5, and my son also is with us. But I have worked in the school district for over 18 years, where I am presently the brace advisor at Dillard High School. I'm running because I believe that there needs to be a change in our school district. There are some things after talking with several employees and, of course, workers and staff across this district that we need to make more, we need to look at and make better. First thing is, of course, safety and security, equity of resources, mental health, and, of course, more support and apprenticeship programs. And I saw that time, that 10 seconds. So those are some things, and hopefully I can get into some other things very soon.
Thank you so much. So now we will move into our questions. So each candidate, actually, before I start with the questions, I want to also acknowledge that candidate coach is not with us tonight because he did not confirm his attendance tonight. So there are 2 candidates missing, one that we actually do hope to join us at some point tonight. So we will start with our round of questions for you. Each candidate will answer the same questions, and each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the questions. As I mentioned to the audience before, none of the candidates received the actual questions that we will ask tonight, but they did receive the order in which they would have to answer the questions. So the first question that we're asking tonight will go to candidate Wholeness. So the question that I have is, what are your top 3 priorities for Broward County while in office?
Okay, like I mentioned before, one of the top priorities is closing the emerging learning gaps as a result of the pandemic when students were 100% online in Broward County schools. In addition to that, my second priority is to address the issue pertaining to mental health of our students. We did a lot with safety, but we need to also invest heavily in the mental health of our students. That came as a result of concerns pertaining to school shootings, as well as the pandemic when they were online. So I think we need to have our mental health professionals and also our school safety team work together instead of separately to have a collaborative effort in addressing those 2 issues. In addition to that, we need to retain and attract qualified teachers. We need to value our teachers. We need to show not just in terms of compensation, but we need to show value to our teachers. We need to recognize them. We need to involve our teachers in the decision-making process so that way they can feel a part of the whole as opposed to being isolated. So those are my 3 priorities.
Thank you so much. And next we have candidate Witherspoon. You're muted. So if you can unmute and then start again. Thank you.
Yes, you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. So my top 3 priorities, one of those are definitely safety and security. After talking with, and of course, being a person that worked in this district as a monitor for over 5 years, and talking with our security, safety and security is definitely something that we definitely need to look at. Next one in is, of course, the equity, the distributing of our resources based on those schools that are lacking funding. So we want to make sure that all of our schools across District 5 are looking the same. Matter of fact, all the schools across the district should look the same. So we want to do that, make sure that the equity of resources, and then our mental health. Mental health is a big issue that we definitely want to look at. And how do we implement these programs? How do we make sure that these things are in place? How we do that is we have to involve everyone in on the process, bringing teachers, bringing mental health professionals, bringing them to the board and to the table so that they can help us to make sure that we have the resources and, oh, hello.
All right.
Thank you. She's on point. She is on point.
She is great at what she does. So the next candidate is candidate Lynch Walsh.
Thank you. Okay, so it's difficult to only have 3 priorities, especially although it is a 2-year term. So it's under the umbrella of equity. So equity can include things like increasing academic achievement. We have the COVID slide, and we need to bounce back from that, but also get to where we need to be when you have a learning gap of 30 percentage points. Included in equity is addressing disparity in disciplinary practices and also in facilities. When we do long-term planning, we need to use the CCC settlement as sort of a filter through which everything should be put. And better resources and working conditions for teachers, and that includes creating safe environments for them and the students. And I'm taking liberties with the third one, but also leading by example. The school board is about to get its 5th grand jury report, and there needs to be transparency, respect for the public, and equitable leadership. So the 3 basically fall under equity, better resources, better working conditions for teachers, and then also better board governance.
Thank you so much. And the next candidate is candidate Carter Lynch.
Well, let's just be realistic. The most important thing right now is for us to find good teachers for the district and to pay them. Right now, we are down over 500 employees, and school starts back, the staff goes back on August the 8th. The kids go back on August the 16th. We are in dire straits when it comes to human resources. The first 15 years of my career was spent in human resources. So therefore, I bring solutions for that piece. The second thing, I agree with Dr. Holness, mental health is imperative, and not just the mental health of our students, the mental health of the entire district, including your teachers, your administrators, and the whole 9. We need to change the culture of respect and bring it back to the teaching profession as a whole. That's the second thing. The third thing is we need to make sure that we are being good fiduciary stewards of our tax dollars. That's why one of the reasons we're having the grand jury reports. I've seen 3, and out of the 22 years of being in the district, there have been 3 grand jury reports. So at the end of the day, if you want the truth, you vote for Ruth.
Thank you so much. And the last person to answer this question is candidate Burgess.
Okay, thank you for that question. My first priority as your next school board member will be to increase compensation, salaries for all of our employees, all of our teachers and staff, our bus drivers that bring our students to school, our cafeteria workers that cook and make sure our students have healthy meals, our teachers that educate our students, our school counselors, our security staff that provide a safe environment for our students. We have to raise the salary and compensation for those employees. School safety, making sure that our schools have compliance officers, that we're doing quarterly compliance checks with our schools and evaluating and monitoring those checks each quarter, that we are training and creating pathways for our security staff. And lastly, student achievement. recruiting and retaining the best teachers, the best leadership in our District 5 schools, making sure that there's training and support, there's more collaboration, finding out what works and what doesn't work, and making sure that our schools have the necessary resources and tools to be successful.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all of the candidates for their answers. So we're going to move on to question 2. And of course, you have the order of the question in which you're going to be asked the question. So for question 2, the person who's going first is actually candidate Burgess again. So the question is, do you support or oppose the school tax referendum that is being proposed in the August ballot? So I'd like to actually provide some context for the audience. So currently we have a half mil tax that will expire in 2023. The tax referendum is asking for a $1 million tax if passed. So this is time limited for 4 years and will be used primarily for salaries. So $1 million means $1 for every $1,000. So my question again is, do you support or oppose the school tax referendum proposed in the August ballot? Why or why not? Candidate Burgess?
Okay. Thank you for that question. And like I've said on several other forums and questionnaires, I do support the referendum. It is important that we provide compensation for our teachers and our staff. However, I want to make sure that that compensation is spreaded and is distributed equitably amongst our employees and staff that work hard each and every day for our students. It also provides mental health support for our students, which is very, very critical, especially during this time. I want to make sure that every school has a mental health counselor or have access to a designated mental health counselor, family counselor at their school. And lastly, safety and security. Our children, our staff must be able to perform in a safe and secure environment. And that includes hiring, recruiting, and retaining the best staff as it relates to safety and security for our students and keep our most precious jewels safe. So I do support it, and it is definitely needed.
Thank you so much for that answer. So the next candidate is candidate Carter Lynch. Again, I'll re-ask the question. Do you support or oppose the school tax referendum proposed in the August ballot? Why or why not?
I support it with a caveat, okay? I support it because if we don't do it, we're gonna continue to have a mass exodus of teachers leaving Broward County. That's my fear. I think the other part of that, my caveat is, I would like for it not to be a referendum. I would like for it to be, for us not to have to go back every 4 years in fear of us not being able to compensate our teachers professionally. What I would like for it to be, I would like for us to figure out a way to compensate them so we can add it to their salaries. And you know, the sad part about this is that after taking a real copious look at it, it is definitely kind of subjective. And not everybody gets it. That's an issue for me. But am I going to support it? Absolutely. Because if I don't, the people that will get it will not be getting it this go round.
Thank you so much for your response. The next person is candidate Holness.
Yes, I in many forums I've said definitively that I support that referendum, and basically currently we have a 0.5 mil in place. Dade County went from 0.75 on putting forward a referendum to go to 1 mil. I believe Palm Beach is already at 1 mil. So we're not doing anything different than the other counties surrounding us. And teachers, our security personnel, and mental health staff, we do need to maintain these, which will be what the money will be used for. Now, with regards to, I believe it was on April 26th that the school board approved this, and I hope the voters will vote on this, because this will ensure that we do keep the teachers that we have, that we don't have teachers leaving the district as a result of not getting some sort of a pay increase to be able to afford their living. Now, do we need to pay teachers more? Absolutely. And we will continue to push for that as well. But I think this is really absolutely important that we pass this in order to make sure we take care of our teachers, secure our schools, and have mental health professionals remain.
Thank you so much. The next candidate is candidate Lynch Walsh.
Thank you. So this has been a difficult question to answer yes or no when you sit on the audit committee and you've been the person most vocal about getting transparency as to how the current referendum was allocated and spent. The way it was negotiated, it wasn't equitable. And there are line items showing fringe benefits being 67% of the salary on the same line. So I will probably have a better answer come August 4th because that's the first audit committee meeting. But essentially, the way I've made peace with it is if you want the supplements to continue as a short-term solution, then you have to vote yes for the referendum. And because I'm on the audit committee and hopefully on the school board, I will make sure that the current one, we get transparency and that the proposed one is spent appropriately. And then long-term, we also have to look at the budget and squeeze as much waste out of the general fund to find long-term increases for teacher salaries and also lobby the state for increases because we can't keep going back to the taxpayers for a referendum every 4 years. So again, yes, I support it, but we also have to make sure that it's being allocated equitably and that we look for long-term solutions in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And finally, candidate Witherspoon.
Yes, well, definitely. My campaign is centered around those things that the referendum is going to, that's going to help within our district. First of all, as an employee, first of all, I've seen those security personnel. I've seen what they do. I've seen the teachers. I've seen the custodial, the bus drivers, and everything that they do. They're passionate about what they do. As I've worked in 3 areas in our school district: food services, security, and now as a brace advisor for the past 13 years. So definitely making sure that that our security personnel and that they have the and that they're happy about coming to work and being supported. And so definitely, I'm definitely in support of the referendum. Making sure that the resources are distributed equally. We want to make sure that whatever we're doing with the finances, and I think all of our candidates, we're pretty much in the same area, but we want to make sure that we're doing right by the money that's being given to us by the taxpayers. So that's it. And then we want to keep our mental health professionals, those that are working tirelessly, trying to help our students so that they can continue to be successful.
Thank you so much. And that concludes that concludes everyone answering the second question. So now we're going to move on to the third question. But because Lewis and Coach are not on the call, I want to put candidate Burgess on notice that he will be first. So the third question, so testing scores were recently released over the summer, and it shows that children have caught up since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, although there are still some racial equity gaps there. Broward ranked B. Broward ranked as a B, while Palm Beach and Miami-Dade County were rated as an A. So the question for all of the candidates: how do we work towards increasing our grade to an A? Candidate Burgess?
All righty. So I think it's important to know that we've had pockets of success in District 5 schools, from our 3rd graders at some of our schools increasing by double points. Currently in our district right now, in District 5, we have 7 schools that scored less than a letter C. I think it's important that we have collaboration, that we recruit and retain the best teachers in front of our students and that our schools have strong leadership. It is also important that we make sure that resources, human resources, curriculum, materials, extended learning opportunities for our students are distributed equitably amongst our schools in District 5. Training and support for our teachers and for our leaders. I think it's just a critical time, and we have to make sure that our school improvement plans that each of our schools have are continually monitored each quarter, and that we really identify the specific needs that each of our high need schools need in order to be successful. It's going to take the village to make this happen, and I'm committed as your next school board member to make sure that our achievement gap is closed.
Thank you so much. So I will actually restate the question because it is a bit long. And the question will go to candidate Lynch Walsh. Testing scores were recently released over the summer and children have caught up since the start of the pandemic, although there are some racial equity gaps. Broward ranked as a B, while Palm Beach and Miami-Dade County were rated as an A. How do we work towards increasing our grade to an A?
Okay, so they did better than the year before, but there are definitely schools that are now back to where they were before the pandemic, or any progress that was made prior to the pandemic has been wiped out. There are elementary schools that are back in the teens in terms of language arts proficiency. And I want to say, I think 12 of the lowest performing elementary schools are in District 5. I think Lauderhill 6 to 12 came up as a discussion point. And when you look at that school, half the school almost is a level 1. So the district needs to look beyond a school grade. A lot of times the district does things that look good on paper. So they'll bring in a magnet program, they'll bring in higher performing students, but the level 1 students, you can't have year after year where the vast majority of kids are staying at a level 1 or not moving from 1 to 2 to 3, because they're supposed to be reading at grade level. So to get to an A, you have to have the strongest principals, the strongest teachers where you have the weakest students, and the supports have to be in place. The resources have to be there. So there's no one quick answer to it. Like Mr. Burgess said, it takes a village, and it takes all of the ingredients coming together, and then we will finally get to be an A.
Thank you so much. The next person is candidate Witherspoon. Candidate Witherspoon, are you on the call? Okay, perhaps he stepped away. We will put him at last. So next is candidate Carter Lynch.
Okay, I'm not going to reiterate everything everybody just said, but let me just say this. When it comes to our students and why they aren't achieving, it's because of leadership. You know, everything rolls downhill. The leadership is questionable right now. And I don't mean the leadership of the teachers, the administrators. I'm talking about the board leadership. Let's face it, unless you give the leadership in these classrooms the tools and the training they need, there's no way we're gonna bounce back like we would like to. In those schools where you see that some schools, a lot of schools are A schools, they have the brightest and the best. I know in one of the schools here in District 5, I'm not gonna call any names, they just lost 25 teachers. And some of them have been there for years. So we've got to get a handle on putting the proper and the best leadership in our schools. And let's start, like again, everything comes back to pay equity. Miami pays $15,000 more. And I think Palm Beach pays at least 10 more than we do here in Broward County. And we are the 6th largest school district in the nation. And let me tell you, I've checked the budget, the money is there. We just need to know how to appropriate it and allocate it properly.
Thank you so much. Candidate Holness.
Yes, so Broward being a B, I just want to mention that, state standardized test is one measure of success. So it doesn't necessarily mean that because we see some improvement that measured by one test, that's where there could be much greater need when we look at the data. So we do have to examine carefully the data, see where the areas of weaknesses are. We need to create programs that will close these sort of learning gaps. We need to involve our teachers in the decision-making process. We need to have effective formative assessment so we can determine exactly what the needs are. And then we also need to provide summative assessments to determine if kids are where they're supposed to be. We also need to have effective professional learning communities in our schools. We do have learning communities, but it needs to definitely be focused academic driven. And we need to have a collaborative effort with school leadership as well as with our teachers. And of course, like everyone says, we do need to find a way to attract and retain qualified teachers and to have our teachers feel valued. So I think it's a concerted effort among all stakeholders in order to increase our student learning outcome. And we should never look at one test as the ultimate measure for success.
Thank you so much. Candidate Witherspoon, I know you stepped away briefly, so I'm going to restate the question for you. So testing scores, of course. So testing scores were recently released over the summer, and children have caught up since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, but there's still some racial equity gaps there. Broward ranked as a B, while Palm Beach County and Miami-Dade County were rated as an A. So how do we work towards increasing our grade to an A?
Well, definitely. First of all, it's gonna take all of us. It's gonna take programs such as the Urban League and other programs that that all of the schools pretty much have. Well, not all schools have them, but some schools have programs and after-school programs so that can help boost up the reading. I believe that every school should have a reading and a writing coach in them because, of course, our reading coach should be able to focus on the data, but that's going to take the support from the board. That's going to take the support from the board, and of course, we need people. I think I heard a few minutes ago about we need people in leadership that's going to help to govern to make sure that our students are getting what they need to get. We need principals in place. We need assistant principals in place to help shape, and of course, that are going to be strong so that they can designate people that's going to be qualified. We need people in quality. We need quality teachers. And how are we going to do that? We need to make sure that funds are there. So in order for us as a school district, we need to work together collaboratively with everyone, coming together, unifying the district, making sure that everyone is on the same accord.
Thank you so much. So now everyone has answered question number 3. We will move on to question number 4. And so the first person to answer that question will be candidate Carter Lynch. So it is said that education is a great equalizer, yet Black and Brown students continue to see vast disparities in outcomes compared to their white counterparts. What would you do specifically to address the racial equity gaps?
Well, first thing we have to do is make sure that we have equity across the board. You know, it's absolutely asinine that you can go and still in 2022, you can go in certain parts of the county. And I've been in this district for 22 years. I've been out here on the ground looking, and trust me, we need equity and parity across the board. We have to take care of our places, our environments that the kids are going to. We are not allocating funds properly. I am a board governance trainer, and I'm going to get back to that. Our issue is that we need to make sure that we are taking care of all of our schools, and we are appropriating the funds like we should. I'm telling you, the funds are there. It's a matter of making sure that we put them in place. That's actually the biggest issue that we have here. So what we need to do, the first thing that I would do, my charge would be to make sure that all of the schools in District 5 are the top priority for making sure they get equity and parity across the board.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you. So I will ask the question one more time, and it will go to candidate Lynch Walsh. It is said that education is the great equalizer, yet Black and Brown students continue to see vast disparities in outcomes compared to their white counterparts. What would you do to specifically address the racial equity gaps?
Okay, so what I would do is something that, excuse me, I'm already doing. There are advisory groups for pretty much anything you can imagine in the district. The problem is that the board doesn't listen to the recommendations coming from those advisory groups. One of the things that it has not been doing is adhering to the CCC settlement agreement. In March of 1999, the school district offered this to the plaintiffs. Because of its commitment to equity, the board will undertake actions designed to improve the educational opportunities of all children as specified in the attached proposal. The board will commence these actions whether or not we are able to settle this lawsuit. They did settle the lawsuit in August of 2000. There's supposed to be annual reports from the superintendent to the board and a response from the diversity committee. So I've already raised this to the superintendent. She is supposed to be making sure that they start doing the annual report. It covers everything where there is disparity in terms of how students are educated in this district, from facilities to discipline, academic achievement, athletic facilities, media centers, textbooks. So adhering to all of the provisions in the CCC settlement is step one, and I've already started doing that.
Thank you so much. Candidate Witherspoon.
Well, this is one of those questions I believe that that everyone should be able to answer. And of course, whether you're Black, whether you're white, but as being a product of this district, I went to Nova Elementary. That was Nova Blanche Foreman was my elementary school that I went to for K through 5. And then, of course, I matriculated and went over to William Dandy Middle School, which was formerly Everglades Middle School. And after being at Nova Elementary, Nova Blanche Foreman, and then coming over to Everglades Middle School during my 6th grade year, I saw the difference. And I would never wish that on anyone. And so that was over 20 years ago, and it's still going on within our school district. And how can we fix that? As your board member, I won't sleep. I will advocate. I will ensure that the resources and everything that's being allocated are not just for any other district. I think someone said it last night. We have other board members that are county-wide board members. We need to make sure that they're in on this process as well, so that when we go to the table to vote, we're making sure that every student has what they need, no matter what their color, no matter what their creed, no matter what their race. If we need to ensure that every organization, every student has everything that they need to be successful across the school district.
Thank you so much for your answer. The next person is candidate Burgess. I'll actually restate the question because it's been a while. It is said,
you
oh,
don't
you
have,
got it? All right, go for it.
Listen, have you heard it about 3 or 4 times? I pretty much got it. You know, equity is something that public education is facing right now, and the conversation is very relevant, and is basically providing the resources and the tools that organizations, students, or leaders or parents need to be successful. Not the same tools, but the specific tools that they need to be successful. You know, working at the district level, and I go into these different schools, I see the inequalities. I see the gaps between the have and the have-nots. As your next school board member, what I want to do is start an equity coach program at our schools. Just like we have academic coaches, we have an equity coach at each of our schools that sits at the table when it's time to look at curriculum, that sits at the table when disciplinary practices are being enforced at schools, and from innovative programs to technology. I want to make sure that an equity coach is provided at those schools and uses a framework that they have been trained on by equity professionals to ensure that equity is being used in each of our schools from those areas that I just mentioned. It's important and it's critical, and you have to be intentional and deliberate about this work.
Thank you so much. The next question goes to candidate Holness.
Yes, first of all, we need to ensure that we're building a school culture that promotes confidence and that promotes inclusion and value among all students. We need to identify any sort of subliminal discriminatory behaviors from staff or anyone else that will affect our students. We need to identify our students' interests and strengths and appeal to them. And we need to have equitable distribution of resources to ensure that we provide our students with the right tools to succeed. We need to have effective programs. For example, I developed student learning communities to identify students who are not doing well and be able to provide programs for their success. Now, we also need to have a supportive culture. I remember when I was a teacher, a student of mine recently sent me an email. I gave him the reference about Ben Carson. This was long before Ben Carson got into politics, but this was maybe 25 years ago, how he was successful at being a wonderful brain surgeon. That student went on to high school to be very successful. He was a troubled kid. And he emailed me recently that he's now a sergeant and doing very well with his wife and 2 kids. And those are success stories. So we need to build a culture of support for our students in addition to being academically driven.
Thank you so much. So that concludes our 4th question. So we will move on to the 5th question. And so for question number 5, the first person who will answer is candidate Lynch Walsh. And the question to you is, do you agree with Florida's law that allows teachers to be armed in the classroom? What measures do you believe should be implemented to keep our children safe in school?
So the last thing you want anytime a gun is involved is for the person that you're trying to protect to get hurt by it. I think when this was first brought up a few years ago, the answer was, it depends. There were people debating who would have a gun, and there were teachers thinking they were going to be forced to have a gun. So in theory, it's something that could work, but you have to have training. I think when the rules actually came out, it was such a small percentage of teachers that a lot of the concerns weren't warranted. However, you have to be able to store it safely. I've heard of someone having a gun in a box that somehow made it into a classroom. We can't have things like that happening. So there would have to be safety so that you never have an accidental shooting by someone that's supposed to be bringing a gun to school to protect them. But there are other security measures that could be put in place first. If you have the school security staff that's armed, then you may not need the teacher to be armed. So it's something we need to put some more thought into. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Candidate Burgess.
Okay. Great question. And I oppose that. You know, our teachers are there to teach our children to become productive citizens. I think we need to make sure that we have security personnel, whether that's an armed safeguard or law enforcement at our schools, that we have our security team that is spread it out equitably amongst our district for our schools that meets the needs and the population of the students. Our teachers shouldn't have guns. Our security staff, we got to make sure that we pay them the salaries that they are deserved. It's important that we make sure that we train our security staff safety and security staff, that we provide pathways for them, and that it's a collaboration. We have to involve our parents and our community stakeholders. They have to be a part of the solution in providing safe and secure environments for our students, law enforcement, our students, our parents, and our student leaders, school leaders.
Thank you so much for your response. I'm actually going to read the question one more time. So do you agree with Florida's law that allows for teachers to be armed in the classroom? What measures do you believe should be implemented to keep our children safe while in school? The next person to answer will be candidate Witherspoon.
Well, I definitely don't agree with it. Our teachers should not have to come to school to have to fight off safety or to deal with safety measures. It's their job. They've been hired to ensure that our students are successful curriculum-wise. And so I don't agree with that. But what we can do is to ensure we can have other measures and we can have people in place, which the district has been doing. But we need to step it up a little bit more so that we can ensure that everyone is being paid and that they're getting the proper training in order to secure our campuses. We need, based on the number of students that's on that campus, the ratio, we need to have those armed security guards or those the armed guardians are based on the law enforcement that is on that particular campus. So those are things that we can put in place, trainings, training our teachers, and also, again, bringing the stakeholders.
Wait,
getting our
before you say also, Monica has said stop.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that red button. I'm so
It's
sorry.
okay. It's okay. So the next person is candidate Holness.
Okay, thank you so much for the question. I absolutely do not believe we should arm our teachers. I believe if you survey our teachers, and the majority of the ones that I've spoken to, they don't want to take on that type of a responsibility. Teachers are overworked and underpaid. They have so much that's on their plate. And then we're going to put on top of that to carry a gun, to have an access to a gun to secure our schools. I don't think that's the job of a teacher. And we should never put that pressure on a teacher. I think we should find ways and effective ways to have alternative measures to ensure that our schools are safe. Now, we have done a lot in safety for Broward County schools. And yes, safety is an ongoing effort, right? You can never do enough. But we do have the Safe Haven International that did a physical assessment of the classrooms. We also have school security risk assessment that was done, and there was a collaborative effort between both. And they came up with measures to secure our schools, including expansion of our video surveillance. And we have other things like single point entry, but we can always continue to do more, but teachers should never be armed. And I absolutely do not support that.
Thank you so much for your answer. So the final candidate to answer this question will be candidate Carter Lynch.
And I remember it. And my answer is unequivocally, absolutely not. Why would you arm untrained people to handle firearms? That's the first thing. The second thing, I have a personal reason for my answer, is because with all of the heightened racial tension that is around this country, especially concerning our Black men and boys, I would hate for one of them to get shot and killed just because the person was afraid and did not realize who they were. So absolutely not.
Thank you so much for that response. So we are now at our last question, question number 6. And the first person who will answer this question will be candidate Witherspoon. So Florida teachers have raised concerns about the new civics training, which is a state-sponsored teacher workshops to explain how to do a curriculum around critical race theory. And there are some concerns that it downplays the prevalence and impact of slavery. How should the Broward School Board respond to the debate about critical race theory and the new civics training? Candidate Witherspoon?
Okay, well, I have not, of course, looked at that, the training and what they're planning on doing, but I'm definitely aware of critical race theory. I believe that that the critical race theory should be taught. We need to make sure that our students are prepared to go into the future. We need to make sure that they have the knowledge about where they've come from. And we need to make sure it doesn't matter what nationality, what creed they are. They need to be taught about some of those things, of course, that are in our books, are in those books about where they've come from. If you don't deal with those and you don't deal with where you've come from, you'll never know where you're going. And so we need to focus on those things, and we need to make sure that this is one of our top priorities as we continue to go throughout our district.
Thank you so much. The next person to answer this question will be candidate Holness. Do you need me to repeat the question?
No, I got the question. Now, there is no substantial evidence that there are subject areas or textbook use in critical race theory. And unfortunately, I see this as sort of a political stunt in trying to gain political points. Critical race theory, if anyone doesn't know what it is, right? It's looking at the social, political, and power distribution of groups through the lens of race to identify racial biases. We haven't had any schools that I know of in Broward County teaching critical race theory. And in fact, the New York Times identified 21 of the books that were provided to say that it has some kind of a content pertaining, and they could not find anything. So in terms of what we as a district, I don't think it's a major problem for us as a district, because I don't see where that's being taught. So I don't even understand the relevance of the question, because there's no evidence that we have critical race theory or any kind of indoctrination of any sort in Broward County schools.
Thank you so much. So I am going to restate the question for the rest of our candidates. Florida teachers have raised concerns about the new civics training, which is state-sponsored teacher workshops to explain how to do particular curriculum around critical race theory. There have been concerns that this new civics training downplays the prevalence and impact of slavery. How should the Broward County School Board respond to the debate about critical race theory and the new civics training? The next person to answer the question is candidate Carter Lynch.
Well, first of all, we have to understand what critical race theory is. And secondly, critical race theory is not being taught in any K through 12 institution in the United States of America. That's the first thing. The second thing is critical race theory is the theory, which is the operative word theory, because none of it is fact, is that all of our institutions, our laws, our regulation, even our Constitution is based on, historically based on race and discrimination. Now, for a lot of that, that's true. But we're not teaching that in our schools. I personally think that it's a dog whistle to have anything mentioned or anything pertaining to slavery taken out of our schools. That's what I think it is. It's a political stunt, like Dr. Holness said, from the Tallahassee and governor in particular, to make sure that we don't talk about race at all. That's my take on it. And I think we should probably do all we can to pretty much ignore it.
Thank you so much. The next candidate to answer the question is candidate Lynch Walsh.
Okay, I was out of commission for a couple of minutes there, so I can hear that you asked about critical race theory, but I'm not sure of the context.
Okay, so I am going to re-ask the question for candidate Burgess, and Mark Reyes, who is our IT, will spotlight you again because it seems like you're not on the screen. So I'm going to read the question again. It is, Florida teachers have raised concerns about the new civics training, which is state-sponsored teacher workshops to explain how to do a particular curriculum around critical race theory. There have been concerns that this new civics training downplays the prevalence and impact of slavery. How should the Broward County School Board respond to the debate about critical race theory and the new civics training? Candidate Burgess?
Okay. You know, like most of the people on the call, opponents said, you know, this critical race theory is not taught in K through 12. It is something that is taught and emphasized on the collegiate level. Secondly, it's unfortunate that our state's leadership has politicized this. What I will do is encourage that our district follows our state standards that are created by our Florida Commissioner of Education. Make sure that our teachers teach those standards. Make sure that we have policy that follow our state law as it relates to this, and make sure that our teachers, our social studies teachers, and all of our teachers have those primary and secondary resources used to teach the state standards around African-American history, which is important. That's what's tested, and that's what our students are tested and evaluated on.
Thank you so much.
There's a lot of movement going on. The screens are moving.
I apologize. So I think candidate Lynch Walsh dropped off the call and we had to put her back into.
Yeah, she's back on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So were you done with your answer?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Candidate Lynch Walsh, go ahead.
Okay, so I think everyone has reiterated that critical race theory isn't taught in K-12. It's a post-secondary debate. And as Dr. Holness said, you know, we're sort of debating something that isn't even taught, and the district is supposed to teach to the standards. They develop a curriculum that teaches to the standard. The House bill that mentioned this, the word equity isn't in there, and that would be sort of the main concern, is that the changes, the word equity doesn't quite make it in there. So if I were going to lobby for anything, it would be to get people comfortable with the word equity. And then in terms of what the district needs to do, I'm going to make people sick of hearing the three letters CCC, because the CCC settlement was designed to dismantle the systemic racial inequities, and yet failed to continue that since 2012. So if we need to be teaching anything, it's that we need to teach the district, the school board, to honor its legal, and I'm looking, oh, there's Dr. Elliott, to honor the CCC settlement agreement and start dismantling it at the school district level and focus on that instead of on this debate, which is much ado about things that are not relevant to K-12. But it is relevant when we're talking about disparity at the district level and what we need to do there.
Thank you so much. So this concludes our questions round. We had 6 questions that were very engaging. What we'll do now is we will move on to closing statements. So we will give each candidate 1 minute and an opportunity to either restate their platform or share why folks should vote for them. So we will start first with candidate Witherspoon.
Hello?
Yes, closing
Okay.
statement.
All right. Well, thank you all for allowing us this opportunity to come on, and of course to share with the voters about what we're doing and what we're looking to do as it relates to our school board and our school district. My name is Jimmy Witherspoon, and I'm very passionate about what I do. After working for the school district for over 18 years in 3 different capacities, I believe that we need someone that's going to advocate, that's going to fight for, and that's going to make sure that policies and procedures are put in place. That's the direction the board should be going in. We need someone that's going to fight for safety and security. We need someone that's going to fight for mental health. We need someone that's going to also make sure that the stakeholders are part of the decision makings across our school district. Transparency, loving what you do, loving and having passion for our teachers and every staff across this Broward County School District. I'm running for Broward County School Board because I love it. I'm a product of it, and I'm looking to make sure that all of our stakeholders have what they need. My name is Jimmy Witherspoon. August 23rd, vote for me as your next Broward County School Board member.
Thank you so much. Next, candidate Lynch Walsh.
Yes, I'm Dr. Natalie Lynch Walsh, and I got into this race when I realized that the current superintendent was about to start long-term planning without involving external stakeholders, which every other district that follows best practices involves external stakeholders in its long-term planning process. And that led to the CCC settlement agreement. If you're going to try to create equity, you have to start with dismantling the dysfunction and the politics in this district. And in order to dismantle it, you have to understand how the system operates and who's controlling the system. And when you've had 10 years of battling that system, you already know what you need to do going into it. We can't just treat symptoms, we have to treat the disease, and that starts at the top. So I'm asking for your vote right now via vote by mail, vote early, and certainly by August 23rd. Natalie Lynch Walsh for Broward County School Board. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have candidate Holness.
Yes, once again, thank you for having us, League of Women Voters and Urban League. I am Dr. Jeff Holness. I have been an educator in Broward County for 25 years. I am a father of 2 Broward County public school students, 2 sons. I am also a business owner of a learning center. We are living in unprecedented times. The pandemic of 2020 has created significant learning gaps for our students. I see the fear and anxiety of the parents coming to my learning center, and that's what triggered me to run. I want to be able to make a difference, to close these learning gaps, to reduce the fear and anxiety of our parents, that they can be confident that their kids will have a bright future and that their kids will get caught up. I am asking for your support. I have the right background, the right experience to be able to make a difference in your children's lives. And please vote for me. And my website is votejeffholness.com. Thank you so much for having us tonight.
Thank you so much. Next, we have candidate Carter Lynch.
Thank you all again. And I bring a wealth of knowledge. I'm a certified board governance trainer. I've been an assistant principal, so I know how the school works, but I also know how money works. And I understand that we need integrity, we need transparency, and I have coupled with a keen knowledge of how the boards, what the board's fiduciary duties are. The board sets policy, supervises the superintendent, oversees the billion-dollar budget, over $6 billion budget, and it advocates on behalf of our parents, our students, and our children. I have been doing that most of my life. And like I said before, if you want the truth, I promise you that I will be telling you the truth with a lot of transparency. At the end of the day, our students are our future. If you want the truth, you vote for Ruth.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, candidate Burgess.
All right. You know, my father made sure I cut the grass every single week, take out the garbage and do other chores. You know, I hated it, but today I understand that it wasn't so much the task, but the lesson and skills that I learned that have defined my work ethic and helped me become a better person. My mother never let me miss a day of school. Couldn't play sick. I had perfect attendance. And that showed me to always show up and be ready. I'm ready, District 5. I'm not a politician. I'm a young Black male educator that cares and loves his community and has worked hard since graduating college to improve the educational outcomes for students and families in District 5. Secured over $500,000 in scholarships, developed mentoring programs in our schools with 100% promotion and graduation rate, and secured over $100,000 in grants for students that provide equitable opportunities. I am the only candidate that has taught at all levels and worked at the central office. This has given me a unique experience. I'm asking my community to give me the opportunity to expand my work as your next board member. I'm #1 on the ballot. Vote Antonio Burgess for District 5.
You're muted, Emma.
I am. Thank you. So thank you so much, everyone. This concludes our candidate forum. I would like to thank everyone who was able to make the call tonight. This is a very important race for Broward County. And what I'd like to do now is actually turn it over to Monica from the League of Women Voters for our closing remarks.
Thank you. I want to thank the school board District 5 candidates also. Participating in this forum is very, very good for the voting public. In addition to the forum, all the candidates were asked to respond to written questions posed by the League of Women Voters. And those questions were different from the questions that you heard tonight. The candidate responses can be found at our website, www.vote411.org. So be sure to tell your friends, family, neighbors, and colleagues that they still have a chance to learn about the candidates by viewing this video and then checking the candidate responses on Vote 411. So be an informed voter and vote in the election. Thank you and good night.
And thank the both of you, Emanuela and Monica and Mark. Thank you all three of you for all of this, okay? Have a great, wonderful rest of the week.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.